it's the number one reason why I do what I do. I love building the relationship with them, with their families. I love, as far as student athletes, our players, with them and their families, and watching them grow once they're done playing. Once they're done playing college baseball, they're playing professional baseball, or moved on to a career and building families themselves.
Welcome back, or welcome to our second of 5 interviews with collegiate directors of baseball operations. I'm your host, Mark Mashad Jr., and I'm honored to have this conversation today with Joe Hughes of Texas Tech. He's an absolute stud of a human being, and he's been a personal friend, mentor, and guide for me throughout my time here as a director of ops. I'm extremely excited to provide you with a look into what he brings to the Red Raiders in college baseball. He's made 4 trips to the College World Series, and when he agreed to do this interview, I knew you all would love it. Throughout this interview, you will clearly witness his determination for excellence, his passion for creating relationships, and commitment to helping others. I've personally experienced it. Every time I call, he picks up that phone, and you know he's got to be busy doing a lot of other things, as all these guys are with ops positions. So let's jump right into the saddle with Texas Tech Director of Baseball Operations, Joe Hughes. Awesome. I really enjoy having you here. You were one of the very first people that I was able to meet, in this position, in this role, and your openness to helping was awesome. So I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, I remember the day all too well, but yeah, you're absolutely welcome, and it's pretty neat to see it come full circle and be here today.
Yeah, awesome. So let's kind of move on and see. Why don't you give us your backstory? Give us the how it all started for you.
Absolutely. So grew up in Plano, Texas, lived in Richardson, but went to Plano East Senior High, so basically call it Plano. Grew up there from first grade on through high school. Played football, basketball, baseball, every sport you can imagine. Ended up just focusing on baseball going into my junior year. Kind of knew I had a future there. I was pretty good at the other sports, but knew I had a future in baseball, just playing ability-wise and all that. Or at least I thought I did at the time. But so from there, played baseball, got the opportunity to go, had some smaller offers out of high school. Wasn't a very physical guy. I was pretty small, was weak. I always had people tell me, hey, if you were just a couple inches taller, 20 pounds heavier, man, you'd be a prospect, and so was just that guy that was just going to try and outwork you and play harder than you, and from there, had a couple small offers, nothing major. Ended up walking on at Grayson County College, which is in Sherman, Denison, Texas, which was about 45 minutes north of where I grew up. What's funny is I didn't know too much about it. But needless to say, it was my summer coach. He goes, hey, man, got opportunity for you to go there. They're kind of a national powerhouse. Coach Tadlock, who's currently here at Texas Tech today, is the coach there. He's done nothing but build the program, win it, win it all, basically just win is what he did, and doing it the right way. And so played 2 years at Grayson. It's funny because I was coming out at Grayson, I was a two-way player. I was an outfielder, center fielder, pitcher. And a lot of my offers were coming in later, coming out of Grayson. Had a couple good years there doing both. Most of my offers were just to go pitch. And I always knew that I wanted to play both, as everybody does, and there's always going to be a time for somebody to tell you no. I went up and played summer baseball in Northern Virginia. Kind of had a really good summer, had several offers. I just pitched there. in my mind, still knowing that I wanted to be a two-way guy. Um, and so I ended up committing with Arkansas for out of Grayson, and that was for about a week. It was short-lived, and the only reason is because Coach Tadlock got the job at Oklahoma.
Gotcha.
And obviously not always a firm believer in if you commit to something, you need to do it. However, this was kind of a rare opportunity, special occasion type deal to where I had multiple conversations with my parents. He got the assistant job at Oklahoma, and he really just called me just to check in on me, see if I committed, see what I was doing. I said, "Hey man, if you're going to Oklahoma, I'm coming with you." And he calls me back. He goes, "Hey man, we don't have any money." I go, "Tad, if you're going to be there, I'm coming with you. It doesn't matter."
Wow.
So anyways, fortunate I was in a good position. My parents supported it. So ended up going to Oklahoma, walked on there, ended up same deal. Like the biggest reason I went is because Coach Tadlock, he'd seen me play. He was going to fight for me, um, you know, position player wise and pitcher. It ended up my first year, I was mainly a defense replacement, came out of the bullpen, ended up starting at probably about 3/4 into the season, ended up starting. So had a pretty good season my junior year, came back as a senior, was going to be our Sunday guy. Again, they kind of shut me down position player wise. A couple weekends into it, I'm starting in center field again and pitching on the weekends as well. So, man, had a fun college career. Won a lot of games, had a lot of fun doing it, built a lot of good relationships. And what was really neat about it is I played for Coach Tadlock, all 4 years of college. He was the head coach at Grayson and the assistant coach at OU.
That's pretty awesome. There aren't many guys that played 4 years of college baseball with their JUCO head coach.
No, it's true. It was pretty neat. It was pretty
And
neat.
that's unique, man.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this has been your whole career is as a fighter. Like you got in to high school, you fought your way to become a great player at high school. You got into a good community college, and you fought your way to do that. Then you got that great opportunity to get to be with Coach Tadlock again, and it was beautiful that he knew what you could bring on both sides of the game, and then you got those opportunities, and you just keep making the most of every opportunity that you've ever been given, and that's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. You just said it best. I mean, you got to make the most out of every opportunity that's given. And in baseball, it's such a short window that you're given as a player, and so you've got to take advantage of it as much as possible. And you got to do it in an atmosphere where you're allowed to do it and have fun. Because baseball's a game. It's as soon as you start making it more than it is, and then it becomes a job. And that's where the struggles of it. It's I was fortunate to have the opportunity to play professional baseball. I was signed as a free agent for in the Royals organization. Played about a year and a half there as a pitcher, which was totally different experience for me because you go from playing every game of your whole life to now you're pitching one out every fifth day, and it was tough. It was a mental grind for me. Just wanting to do everything. But at the same time, I was blessed and I was fortunate to have the opportunity. Went back to spring training, was dealing with some shoulder issues. Ended up, there's some. It was kind of a mixture of reasons why I hung them up. One, the shoulder, and then two, I was able to get my 5th year of college paid for at Oklahoma and go be the student assistant coach, which turned into a grad assistantship for the athletic department. But anyways, I was getting school paid for at the same time, and my window was with that next semester. So I was scheduled to graduate. And
who came to you Who came to you with that opportunity? How did that happen for you?
So it was just in communication back with our, he's actually the current ops guy there, Ryan Gaines, and then Coach Tadlock at the same time, of just, hey, it's this, I'd love the opportunity to be there, and hey, asking questions. Hey, I need to graduate. I know you've got the 5th year aide. Um, what's the possibility? What's the what different scenarios? How can I get this done? And so anyways, went back. I was a student assistant coach in the fall, basically in between my when I was my first season of pro ball and spring training, then came back that next semester, when I hung them up. Ended up working just locally there in town, giving lessons, doing everything I could to try and make money. Um, Live in Norman at the time, and then the next semester I was able to finish up my degree, my undergrad degree, and then that landed into a grad assistant position just in the athletic department there, and I was able to get my grad school completely paid for. Able to pick up a stipend and then working a full-time job at the same time. So it was, man, it's right time, right place. Just big believer in just faith and in God, and just that He put me in the right position at the right timing. So it worked out for sure.
Absolutely, he sure did. And the grad assistantship, that was within the university? Was that coaching? What was that?
No, so unfortunately at that time I was looking into anything I could do baseball wise as far as grad assistantship, but they didn't offer anything.
Mm,
So it was more from an administrative side, in different departments. I actually worked at our basketball arena, then I went into event operations, event management, in which so basically it was just a 2-year program. Met some of my best friends, some of the best bosses I've had as well, coworkers as well, that I still stay in touch with today.
mm-hmm.
But anyway, so did that program for 2 years, worked in the athletic department, at the basketball arena, which landed into, in turn, a position that they created for me in event management at Oklahoma. So, which was really neat, and really, at that time it was perfect for what I needed. I was still able to coach, youth teams. I was able to give lessons and stay within the game of baseball.
Yeah.
When I got done with baseball, I was a little bitter at the game. I wanted to take a breath, step back, but I always knew in the back of my mind, like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be involved in it. Love the college game. Just
Mm-hmm.
went playing in it, just fell in love with it, and just wanted to find a way to give back. My passion, I've always wanted to coach, um, but this has kind of been my calling. I came on from Oklahoma. Coach Tadlock got the head job. He got the assistant job in 2011. So 2012, he was named head coach here. I called him, and I basically said the same thing when he went to Oklahoma. I said, "Hey man, I'm coming." I said, "You just tell me what position. I'll be there." So anyways, it's a couple week process. He finally reached out to me, said, "Hey, you have a director of operations position. It's not a coaching position, but think you'd be great for it." And I said, I just said I'm in. So, needless to say, I think I put in my 2 weeks. And then that weekend I came out to Lubbock. I found a place to live. I was here, and so
Mm-hmm.
and I was ready to dive in and jump in. And the biggest reason I said, hey, with Coach Tadlock, I'm coming, just because I knew exactly what he's going to do. Like everywhere he's been, he's won. He lets players play. He builds programs up the way they should be. And he does it in a way where, the players, they know that he cares about you, and he lets you play.
From where you sit, like, what do you see that he does
Yeah.
that builds that culture?
Yeah. So I tell this to people every day. He's the same guy that I played for at Grayson County College that he is as a head coach at Texas Tech today. He's as real as they get. He's gonna tell you the truth. He's a joy to be around. I've grown up around him and his kids, and it's just he's just a special guy. And on the baseball field, when you're talking about just somebody that's going to fight for you, he's even keeled. He's as smart as they come, just with game management. But just the player relationships that he's built. Mine being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everybody has the utmost respect for him. He's as good as they get, and there's a reason for his success.
So you've so now you're here. You're at Texas Tech. Those first couple years, what go through those first couple years and tell me what that was like for you.
You bet. So it's been 8 years now. It's kind of crazy how time's flown. The first few years as an ops position, I made it a point. I'm going to know every single person. I'm going to know every single detail that goes on around this program. It was a lot of nights at the office, if not every night. And I didn't mind it. I was living at the baseball field. I was single at the time. I was in a position where I could do that. It was 24/7, and it still is, 24/7. But it was just a commitment to making this program and getting it, on the right track, especially building the program from it and not necessarily building the program. It's been in place, but just hadn't had much success. But just trying to make a commitment to changing the mindset of the program of hey, we can win here and we're going to win here. And that's from small details to, hey, what's our budget looking like? What's our schedule looking like? How do we travel? Who's traveling with? How are we eating? Et cetera, et cetera. Just the multiple aspects of the world of college baseball.
When you first started, did you just jump in, or were you doing schedule, budget, travel? Like you just jumped in and took all of that? How did that transition work?
Okay, so when I very first started, and I'll tell a little story when I first started. I came out. We had one of our big summer tournaments going. I literally got there the day before. We were giving tours to each team. So there's 64 teams in the tournament. Tadlock gave one with me, and then he said, hey, you got it. So you go back and watch the game. So I gave probably 50 tours, which for me was like, man, this is exhausting, but I loved every bit of it, and I didn't know where anything on the campus was at the time. It's kids are asking me and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, but it was a fun experience for me, but that was just kind of foreshadowing to what was to come. Is like, hey man, he trusts me, I trust him. He's going to let me kind of do my thing, obviously with let's do this with communication together. But hey, we'll do scheduling, we'll do budget, let's do travel, let's do whatever it is. He kind of let me do it. At the same time, in the first couple of years, I was always communicating with him. Hey, are you good with this? Are you good with that? Because the biggest thing in the ops role is you got to learn what your head coach likes, what he loves to do, what he, especially at home on the road, and the same thing with the assistant coaches. As far as everything with recruiting, with you name it, just trying to take care of them and make it as easy as possible for them. Just to take care of the coaching side of things, to where they don't have to worry about any of the other smaller details.
Awesome. Yeah, that's huge. That's really, really great stuff, and important stuff to learn. Like I'm finding that out. Being in year, well, I'll say 1.5, seeing as year 2 kind of got cut away from us here, but. I feel like that first year was, drinking out of that fire hydrant where everything's just coming at you.
Trying to stay afloat. Yep.
You've been to 4 College World Series tournaments, which has got to be the thrill of a lifetime. What's it like? How is it managing that time where excitement is at all-time high,
Hmm.
but also having to manage so many different scenarios that could possibly happen? Like, you've got excitement and all these things that could happen. How did you go about? How do you handle that?
Absolutely. So it's I always say it's the greatest but the craziest time of your life. It's and the busiest time of your life. It's from an ops standpoint. You're as busy as you're ever going to be, but at the same time, you don't mind doing it because you're in Omaha, or
Right.
you're going to Omaha. The just kind of setting up as far as our in 2014 was our first year to go to Omaha. We're went and won a Miami regional, and then which for me this was year 2 for us. So we were going to a regional in Miami. That was an experience in itself. And it's you expect to win and everything, but at the same time, it's all new in an ops position. So you're learning. You're trying to stay ahead of everything. And then we won the regional, came back home. We ended up hosting stuff. Everything fell up our way. We hosted at home, um, and won in 2 games. And the biggest piece of advice that I got was actually or the best piece of advice I got was actually from Ryan Gaines, who is the ops guy at Oklahoma and when I played and currently is. He goes, hey, he after we won our regional, he said, hey, he called me, said, hey, congrats. I'm just going to tell you this. You're not going to want to do this because everything inside of you as a baseball guy is going to tell you not to do it, superstition wise. You're going to have to start preparing for Omaha before you've even played a game in the super regional. So I took his advice. I'm up here at the office. I'm trying to prepare and help out any way I can for the super regional, um, and with scouting reports, with everything, taking care of our guys. Um, and at the same time, at night, I'm up here at the office, and I'm sitting here doing stuff for Omaha, and don't even know if we're going. Um, However, is the best thing we've done. Best advice I could have got, and best thing I could have done, because it hits you. It's probably the moment you win and you're going the next 24 to 48 hours. It is nonstop. It's trying to figure out your travel party. There all of a sudden people that are going or traveling with you that have never traveled with you before, and everybody and their dogs wanting to travel. You have meetings left and right, phone calls, conference calls left and right. You're trying to read through the manuals to make sure you've got all the information. Um, and then first and foremost, you've got to take care of your guys, your players, your student athletes, and you're making sure they're all taken care of with any questions they have, and making sure your coaching staff is taken care of. And just making sure you're arranging with family travel with, hey, where are we staying? Here's the events we're doing. Let's build out our itineraries. Let's, the food, everything. It's one of the greatest but busiest times that you can have for sure. It slows down. It's just the same thing as it does once you get in this role for a little bit. Everything slows down and feel a bit more confident as you go, knowing the needs of everything or everybody, and knowing, kind of anticipating and expecting what's to come.
Hmm. This kind of listening to you talk about this, it made me think of a couple of different areas that I'm interested to hear how you handle things. Um, Family, communicating with families.
Hmm.
How like are you involved in that in a big role? And how do you do that if you are
As
really?
far as players' families, you're talking about.
Yeah, players'
Yeah,
family.
yeah. So it's each one of them. It's from day one. As soon as they step foot on campus on their recruiting visit, they've got my number. I'm fortunately I'm I'm in on all recruiting, on campus recruiting, tours, everything that we do for them. And our staff, it takes pride in trying to have everybody involved so they know. But they've got my number. They've got a direct line to me. They've got a direct line to our player development, Lindy Kiesling, who she oversees academics, which we hired her on 3 or 4 years ago. And man, she's just been a blessing for me in my role. That yeah, as far as communication with family, they've got a direct line. They've all got my numbers. It's kind of as needed basis. It's
Mm-hmm.
24/7. Hey, if you guys need me, if you have questions, a lot of times we encourage the student athletes. Um, hey, you guys ask the questions. If you need anything, ask. Okay, and relay this to your parents. However, they've all got our numbers if they've got questions, which a lot of parents do, which is totally fine. A lot of them will actually call me and they'll say, "Hey, just don't let so and so know I'm calling you." I'm like, "No problem at all. It's no big deal." So,
Mm-hmm.
we're there for them just as much as we're there for their sons. Trying to take care of each, because I can only imagine being a parent now. It's, yeah, you're entrusting your kid to this school under this staff. It's you want to feel like they're going to be able to take care of them and trust them to do so.
Yeah. And along that communications line, um, what's your process of communicating with players?
Hmm.
Um, let's say going on a road trip, or you have a big a 3 game series coming up.
Yeah.
Do you have routines that you do in communicating with guys, explaining things? Does it just all kind of just go? Do you just rely on like teamworks? How do
Right.
you handle all
Absolutely. So you said it best. Teamwork's for us, and we got teamwork's a couple years back has been just tremendous. It all starts before a trip. Um, I'll schedule out travel itineraries. I like to give them a day at a time. It
that?
basically just, when we're doing a travel itinerary, I give them that day's schedule on paper. In Teamworks, I'm able to build it out just because the new rules, you have to build it out now, and they've got to have a good idea of what their game times, practice times, all that are. So it's built out on Teamworks. As far as communication wise, I was a big group texter before I had Teamworks. Now, fortunately, with Teamworks, it has helped tremendously, just because it's a couple clicks of the button and you
Mm-hmm.
write out the message, and you can put everybody and their dog on it, or you can put a couple guys on it. Now, if I'm having um, conversations just individually, it's either phone call or text. Um, I'd prefer to talk face to face or on the phone with them, so they can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
However, with the way the kids are today, it's if you text it to them, they usually get it more so than hearing you. So, um, but that's the biggest way. It's just it's got to be constant communication. You have to make sure you can tell them the day before, but you got to set reminders. You got to tell them this is where you need to be. This is when we need to be there. And in doing so, in the same way, with just trying not to overwhelm them with it, not trying to bother them with it. And the reason I say that is because if you give them too much information, they're not hearing you. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, just the best communication. I mean, that's the best way we do it. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And because I just asked because I had always thought like maybe I wonder if I could like talk to them as a team at the end of a practice, saying, "Hey, this is what we've got coming up. It's in your teamworks." But I was thinking about that as a different thing, and I just was curious if anyone or you had tried something like that.
yeah, yeah. So and I've done that, and I do that every now and then, just as far as just immediate needs.
Yeah.
Coach Tadlock usually addresses them, and if I've got anything to chime in on, I'll echo him, or just send subtle reminders. But usually after the meeting, that night I'll follow up with a text, just telling them,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm basically repeating what I said, but just so everybody gets it, and there's no excuses that they didn't, and so everybody's gonna be there. So
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, Joe, I am like this has been awesome. This is I love every opportunity I get to talk to you, and I know at the ABCA convention, I was able to get to talk to you for quite some time while we were over there, and that was just always a great time to be at the ABCA and then run into guys like you and learn a little bit more. Um, to kind of close out here, uh, do you have any advice for someone starting out, like a young guy getting going, starting out right now in maybe an operations career? or since you have that experience in the administration side of game operations, you know, what would be an advice that you would give out to those people?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best advice that I've told people and told kids, just networking. It's about building your network. It's about um, obviously knowing the right people, but not only knowing them, but building the trust with them. In our role, there's so much, um, there's so much or so much of an element of trust that you have to have from your head coach, from whoever your employer is. That if they trust you, it's going to make everything a lot easier. So just the aspect of building the relationships, network. And I say networking. A lot of that's built through your growing days, whether it's
Mhm.
playing, whether it's college, whether it's your first job out of college. Is just building those relationships, and because if you build the trust, they're willing to go to bat for you and hire you on, and then the rest can be history from there.
And kind of seeing if we could go on off of relationships, because that's a huge thing, and I know that's something that you've always talked about every
Yeah,
time that I get the chance to talk to you, is how, like, your relationship with Coach Tadlock is just been, it's like second to none.
yeah.
How do you create your relationships or manage the relationships, or how are the relationships with you and the players and you and the coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole reason I got into this, and the whole reason I wanted to, was because of relationships. It's the world of sports is such and college baseball is such a unique experience. And just the relationships you build out of it, whether it's players to player, whether it's player to coach. Man, that's the whole reason I got into this and want to kind of give back to the game, so to speak. For me, there's nothing better than watching a player come in from year one and just building the relationship, giving them advice along the way, and watching them grow. Um, from the time they're done here, whether that's their junior year and they get drafted, or they're here through a senior, as a senior. But to me, it's the number one reason why I do what I do. I love building the relationship with them, with their families. I love, as far as student athletes, our players, with them and their families, and watching them grow once they're done playing. Once they're done playing college baseball, they're playing professional baseball or moved on to a career and building families themselves. As far as the coaching staff, we're in a very, very unique situation. I'd say in college baseball, not only college baseball, but college athletics. Our staff has been the same since we've got here.
Hmm.
We've got everybody. I'll kind of run through them. It's Coach Tadlock, obviously, he's our head coach. J. Bob Thomas is the recruiting coordinator. Matt Gardner is our pitching coach. Ray Hayward's our special assistant. And then Eric Gutierrez, our volunteer, is actually a player for us in year one. All-American for us, just as good as gold, hardest worker you'll ever see. But kind of going through the staff and just the relationships, man, we love being around each other. We enjoy showing up to the park. We enjoy hanging out. Outside of being at the park, it's hard to explain.
Hmm.
But I'm a firm believer that one of the reasons of our success over the last few years is because our staff is just the relationships we've built, and that our players see that. They see that you're having fun. They see that you're enjoying your time. It's not a job. Our pitching coach, Matt Gardner, and I, we actually played together for Coach Tadlock at Grayson. So it all comes full circle. It's really neat when you talk about relationships. That's kind of exhibit A, when you can turn around and work for somebody that you played for. It's a very, very special.
Awesome. Well, Joe, again, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. We've gotten so much great information, and hopefully, if somebody out there listens to this and they're interested in following a career in operations of any sport or in administration in a college athletics program, that we've provided something that they can be, could be helpful to them. So thank you very much.
You bet, and that's the reason we do it. We're here to help. It's here to serve, and anybody that needs anything, we've got an open door. So,
Awesome.
but it's been fun. It's been fun getting to know you as well, and watching you kind of grow in this role. It's been neat too. It's fun because the questions you ask me, it's funny because I remember those where I was sitting there like, what am I going to do? How do we need to do this? So it's fun to watch you grow as well.
Thanks, Joe.
You
All right, well,
bet.
have a great one.
Hey, you too. Thanks, Mark.